The lead story this hour, the South African Airways Pilots Association, SAPA, says that the majority of its members are in favour of strike action to force change at the struggling national carrier. The association said it had long been pushing for the appointment of a skilled permanent CEO to save SAA from ruin. Well, if pilots do strike, it will be the first strike in the airline's 80-year history. For more, we are joined via Skype by SAA Pilots Association spokesperson and retired SAA Captain John Harty. A very good evening to you, Captain. We thank you very much for your time this evening. Essentially, we've seen SAA strikes in the past, but it's never been with the inclusion of pilots. What has brought it to this point?
Well, as you said in your introduction, we haven't been on strike in 80 years. Over the last few years, from 2015 onwards, we've had what we consider to be incompetent managers, incompetent directors, the Dudu Manyeni years, and we've taken action in those years to demand and call for competent management. And as you know, Mr. Jorana arrived and he seemed to be doing quite well, getting on track. Took him a while to get up to speed because the airline business is quite specific, but he seemed to be doing well, and then he resigned, unfortunately, and we all know the reasons for that due to the demand letter that he wrote. So it's come to a stage now. We've had some meetings with the board. We thought we were getting some traction. There's been some reasonably good appointments made at SAA, but it seems to have stagnated, and we need to start using our muscle now to get the change at SAA that's required to turn this company around and give it a fighting chance going forward.
Now, where do you think the talks have failed?
Well, I think there's no action. We get a lot of talking, but not much action. We have too many persons in SAA that we believe are incompetent in top leadership positions. The same people are in place now that were in place during the Dudu Manyeni years that got us into this trouble, and they are still there trying to get us out of the trouble, and it just doesn't make sense. We've called for a skills audit to assess the top two levels of management of SAA, to benchmark them internationally, an independent skills audit, to see if we do have competent management, and if we haven't, to replace them with those who can do the job.
Are you then saying that the current board and the current leadership now does not have, or rather the SAPA does not have confidence in the current board and leadership at SAA as we speak?
No, we don't have confidence in some members on the board and some members in the executive leadership of SAA. That is true.
Now, we also know that SAPA also threatened to go on strike this year in June. That was after the appointment of the interim CEO. Does SAPA have confidence in the interim CEO as we speak?
We have no confidence in the interim CEO as a CEO position. We don't believe she has the required skills to head up SAA as a CEO, and that is why we're quite heartened to see the advert that was put out recently by the board in search of a new CEO, which stipulates certain conditions in terms of airline experience at a high level of a CEO position.
Of course, you are a retired pilot, and you've also further called for the appointment of having an active or a retired pilot on the airline's board. How important do you think it is, specifically for the association to actually have a pilot member have a direct voice in the organisation?
Well, firstly, let me say that's not me. I'm not applying for that position at all. But amongst the pilot body, this is internationally recognized that a lot of airlines internationally, including Lufthansa, American Airlines, all have pilots sitting on the board. Those boards have recognized that pilots with 30 years, 35 years of experience, some of our pilots have PhDs, they have master's degrees, they have engineering degrees. Some of our pilots have headed up the CAA, they've headed up SAA Technical, they've been directors there, they've been the CEO. So we honestly believe that the airline is missing an opportunity to have people on board the company's board that know the business and can give a valuable input. They just form another facet of a hopefully successful board going forward.
In SAPA's concerns around SAA as a business going concern, essentially what are its main issues?
Well, we know the main issues about a going concern is that we don't have enough money. We haven't been properly recapitalized. The government has been trickle feeding in guarantees to SAA, which in turn means SAA has to go and borrow that money in the market at high interest rates. I believe the SAA interest bill is approaching 2 billion rand a year. The latest injection by the government of 5.5 billion, I believe, is a capital injection, which is good news for the company and for the staff, but it's not confirmed yet.
Now, as it stands, where does the association sit in terms of actually calling on that strike to actually take place?
Well, the strike notice we put out to the demand is a letter of demand, so we're negotiating with the company. We're in the process right now of negotiating around those demands. And I might just add that those demands are all for the survival of SAA. There's not one demand there that benefits the pilots in terms of the salary increase or increased benefits, etc. They're all around management, getting proper, competent, fit-for-purpose management in place. Now, the negotiating process will continue, and hopefully management of SAA, the board shareholder, will see reason. I believe they've called for proper management themselves and skills audits, so I think we're already on board. And I see no reason why we won't reach a settlement in terms of what we want to get this airline running.
And what has the response been like from the board to, or rather from the association's demands?
We haven't had any response for the latest demands. After the initial demands were sent in July, I think it was, or June, we did have three meetings with the board. They took our concerns very seriously, and as a result of that, the adverts went out for the CEO position. But we're just concerned that the matters are stalling now. We need to get a skills audit up and running in place. We need these appointments to be made.
Now, in terms of the configuration of numbers that the South African Airways Pilots Association has put together with regards to pilots' intention of wanting to go on strike, how essentially was that compiled?
We had an independent polling company come in and poll our members, and the results we sent out, there were approximately 90% of pilots in favour of taking some form of industrial action, and there were approximately 93% of pilots that believed the management of SAA, Flight Operations Department specifically, was either bad or very bad. So those are damning figures, and it's on that basis that we feel confident to call for a change to the leadership of SAA.
We thank you very much for your time this evening. South African Airways Pilots Association SAPA spokesperson and retired SAA Captain John Harty.
You're welcome.
Tomorrow will be business as